So what I have for you today is one of the most brilliant ideas that has ever existed in the history of pitches for the WWE or just wrestling in general. This is my pitch for something based off of one of the biggest phenomena that is out there in nerd culture. This is based off of the Marvel Universe, and of course Thanos, who's the main villain of that entire series. And if you don't know the premise of the Marvel Universe, the whole 23 movies or whatever it ended up being, it was all around the idea that this character Thanos, who's extremely powerful on his own, but in order to accomplish the task that he wants to, which is to wipe out half the universe, he actually needs these 6 Infinity Stones in order to do it. Now, my pitch is you take that storyline and you bring it to a WWE character. Now, I'm going to call this the Belt Collector storyline. And there are 2 prime characters that I think would be good for this. One much more than the other one. I'll say the first one, who I haven't thought out the story entirely for, but I could see them being this person, is Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, first of all, kind of looks like Thanos, at least as a character, and kind of the idea that they're pretty strong at a base level, and he could realistically win all of these titles. Brock Lesnar is the perfect one to do it. People already hate him anyway, and he's kind of this outsider hired gun anyway, so I think it could work. But really the person I'm going to pitch and tell kind of my pitch for a storyline for is Bray Wyatt, aka the Fiend. So here's my pitch on how this could work out. The end goal is Bray Wyatt will end up with all of the major championships from the WWE, from SmackDown and from Raw, and possibly from NXT, although I think I'm going to leave NXT untouched except for the top NXT championship title. Now that the brands are kind of all intermixing and NXT isn't considered kind of the minor leagues anymore by the company, I think that there's a possibility that they could be tossed in too. But here's roughly how I see this all going down. Bray Wyatt right now is the Universal Champion. The title just went from red to blue. He's going to maintain this title. And how this whole storyline will begin is out of nowhere, Bray Wyatt will attack Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental Championship, and he will take it from him. And it'll be legitimate somehow. I don't know how they would want to do it, but ultimately he would get put into some kind of situation where he can win the IC belt, okay? So he goes, he wins the IC belt, and everyone's like, why did Bray Wyatt do that? Why is the Fiend doing this or that? And then eventually they have a Firefly Funhouse maybe a week later where Bray Wyatt can explain what it is. And this is roughly what his promo will be. You go, hi everybody. It's like, I know a lot of people are wondering why I took that belt from poor Shinsuke. Well, here's the thing. I was a bad guy just like him. And I realized that this whole place is full of bad guys. And I think it's their toys that are making them feel that way. So you know what? I think maybe if I take them, everyone will feel good, just like me, boys and girls. So I think I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that those bad things are out of their hands, and then they'll be happy, just like us here at the Firehouse. And I think that's what he does. He basically declares he's gonna be coming for all of the titles. And you have these other champions that are gonna scoff at it. You start with the IC belt from Shinsuke Nakamura. That's a good one. He doesn't need any kind of follow-up battle with the Fiend or anything. I don't think it's necessary. Then you have him come for the next kind of important title, which is the US title. Right now Andrade holds it. It probably won't be Andrade at the time. I actually don't want it to be Andrade, but being a heel, it would kind of go in line with the idea that these bad guys need to lose their toys. Anyway, Andrade, if he does hold it, he's cocky enough that he would have a match with the Fiend and say, you can try to take my title, you're not going to, and Zelina could probably cut a few good promos on the Fiend. And say you're not going to take it, and at a pay-per-view, he gets the 3rd belt. So now he has the Universal Championship, the IC belt, and also the US Championship. And then randomly out of nowhere, we see one of these segments where R-Truth is running around the 24/7 title. He just randomly gets the mandible claw on R-Truth, and then boom, 4th belt. Easy to get him 4 right there. And you do all these fun segments where you have the belts up on the wall, or they're going to be wrapped around like Ramblin' Rabbit or something like that, or they'll be doing the Muscle Man dance or something with them on. That'd be pretty cool. And of course, when he walks to the ring, the Fiend can just walk in like one long chain strap or something, and like he can just clip them all together and drag them to the ring if he wants to, along with his lantern. I think that'd be cool. Now, ultimately, this is all going to end up into one big schmoz. And by the way, real quick, I want to say that there's a possibility that he could win the tag titles. I know it looks like, that's obviously silly because he wouldn't be working with someone. First of all, he could. I think in order for it to be like the real belt collector, he can't neglect the women. So they would probably need to have some kind of female companion. If they don't want to go down that route, I think it'll still be awesome, but it'd be weird to not acknowledge the women's division too, I think. So whatever, but we'll put that aside for a second. Now, the tag thing can work specifically with The Fiend and Bray Wyatt because he is both personalities. So he can go out there as one or the other, and you can argue that it's really two people versus the other two people. So he can go out there and face off against, I don't know, the New Day or whoever's holding the titles at the time, and through some fluke or some kind of illegal thing, he can win the titles on his own and claim that he in fact should have both. Now, you could argue that the fact that there are two different titles for the brands, that would make it a little more difficult to even try to do the tag thing. But I think you could do it. He could win those as well. So I think you could end up with the tag titles and that as well. Now, if you want to throw in the NXT Championship, you could. But that starts to get into territory where I think it's a little dangerous to have all the titles literally on one person. Like, I'm not going to add the NXT UK title either. But what you could do is, if you did add that on, the ultimate last title that has to be fought for is the WWE Championship. That has to be the Fiend versus Brock Lesnar. And the reason why is, the way the storyline would go, it would require Brock Lesnar to be a part of it, but more specifically, it requires Vince McMahon to play a huge part in this. This storyline really works if the McMahons get involved, and I know a lot of people get really annoyed about the idea of the McMahons having their hands on things too much. That's usually they're referring to Stephanie or Shane, not Vince. Vince, in this scenario, if he, in kayfabe, believes all of his belts are being taken from him by one guy and possibly going to be disposed of, and as wrestling fans, we know how important the belts are to the industry. They are. They just are. Sometimes a little too much, but this would be good. Vince will come out and say, I want my belts back. Who the hell can stand up to this guy? And then they're going to have Brock Lesnar out. Brock Lesnar can come out. Heyman can cut an awesome promo. It's like, I don't think you've shown my client enough respect. Now that you have so much trouble coming your way, it's funny and convenient that you come to Brock Lesnar. Like that. And I think that'd be great. And then they do this will they, won't they thing where they're like, maybe we won't help you get your belts back. I'm not so sure about that. All we know is that my client has his belt, you know? They actually kind of sound like Vince McMahon. Sorry, I meant to be Paul Heyman on that one. So they walk out, and then later on that night, or a little bit later on in the week, Brock Lesnar comes out during a Fiend segment where he's beating up someone else for their titles. Brock comes out, basically lays some haymakers on the Fiend. The Fiend escapes somehow, maybe in the crowd or something. Lights go out, and then we don't know where he is anymore. That would be the perfect way to do it, because Brock Lesnar looks really good. He doesn't have to be a mega heel. He is one of the only people that's legitimately able to go up against the Fiend in this scenario that, like, you could kind of see working, okay? And, like, Brock's always going to be around. He's been this part-time guy, and it would look like he's being used for good instead of evil this time around. So you have them, and you have a big blow-off at one of your major pay-per-views, whether it be SummerSlam, the Royal Rumble, I don't know. I would probably say SummerSlam, actually, because there would be enough time to finish the next part of what I want to do. I think the Fiend, either one in a singles match, could beat Brock Lesnar for his title, and the Fiend effectively has all of the titles. All of the major important titles. Now, this wouldn't be an outrageously long storyline, because you don't want the titles on one guy for a really long time, but maybe like 2 months you could do this. Now, if he beats Brock, I could envision a scenario where Vince McMahon, if he's willing to do it, if he's willing to take his eyes off of the XFL, he laces up his boots and he decides he's going to go take on the Fiend and get his titles back himself. Now, if he can't do it though, which he won't, he would lose to the Fiend. What this does is this sets up an amazing opportunity for the WWE to do one of two things. One is more likely, which is that they will crown essentially a new super mega babyface. This would be the opportunity to get Roman Reigns super over in a way that he has not been before. First of all, they should have just made him a heel a long time ago. But whatever, if they want to go with the babyface idea, the fact that he could beat the Fiend in order to get these belts back, that would be a huge, huge, huge victory. He wouldn't win all the belts. He would only win one or maybe none. It would just be basically a victory to release the belts. Or if they really want to go hard on the Marvel concept, they could create a match where, kind of like an elimination chamber essentially, where it's the Fiend and all the people he stole the belts from. You could have like Shinsuke in there. You could have Andrade. You could have Adam Cole. You could have Brock and whoever else he took him from, other than the tag champs. You could throw them all in there, and it could essentially take all of the Avengers, roughly, to get them back. Because imagine a championship match with all those people. It'd be outstanding. And it could work. It could realistically work. And really, The Fiend would get to the end, of course, and it would be a will they, won't they. Maybe this is a Roman Reigns thing, where Reigns is the last one. If he wins, all the belts get released, and they don't win them back. But there's a tournament to reshuffle the deck, essentially. The IC belt will be up for contention. Same thing with the US title, with all of the championships. They will be up for contention. Roman Reigns would be the champion of the company, essentially. After Vince McMahon failed, Roman Reigns comes through. Or you could crown another guy like Adam Cole, who has definite superstar potential on the main roster, but he hasn't quite gotten there yet. So I think you could do something like that, and that would be huge. If you want to go down the women's route, if you want to make this belt collector concept work, you could give him a female companion that you think would be legitimate and would be part of the Firefly Funhouse. I don't know who that would be, truthfully. I think it's a little tough. Maybe you could make Nikki Cross that way. I think she would be good, since she's been somewhat underutilized as Alexa Bliss's best friend, even though I love Bliss. You could do that, and she could become like another member of the Firefly Funhouse. Although I got to tell you, man, it's rough to listen to someone who's Scottish. I like Nikki Cross, but when you have to listen to Scottish people talk for a really long time and your audience is mostly American, it grates on you. So maybe she's not the best choice overall, but someone like that, okay? In order to help out Bray Wyatt take over the women's division as well. I mean, Thanos had his little group that helped him out take the Infinity Stone, so maybe this could work. So ultimately, the structure of this, Bray Wyatt starts out, says that they need a course correction in the WWE. He ends up collecting all the lower titles, eventually gets Brock Lesnar's, and then he has basically all the major ones. Then there's one big blow-off where he loses all of the titles. A new major babyface is crowned in the WWE, and all the titles will also reset. All of the titles benefit from this because they are considered very important assets. Everyone goes, Brock Lesnar, Bray Wyatt can't have all the titles. They're so important. And then once they're reshuffled, you can make every one of them really important. Also, I did not mention the Cruiserweight title. That one could also be collected as well. It would be fun seeing Bray Wyatt kind of throw around the Cruiserweights, so that could be strapped on. Plus, it's purple, so it would look cool with the Infinity Stone kind of concept. But ultimately, all these titles could be collected. I think it would be really cool. I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if they had wrestling without belts, even though those props are useful. Just give them other props to utilize, and it'll be cool. Or just book a good storyline, and everything will be fine no matter what. But that's my pitch for Bray Wyatt, the belt collector. What do you think about this? Do you think it's silly? Do you think this is great? Do you think it needs improvement? I don't know. Let me know down below in the comment section. I would love to hear from you about this one. And of course, if you have any other thoughts about wrestling you want to talk about, just throw it out there, and we'd be more than glad to talk to you about it. Otherwise, hope you have an amazing day, everybody. You take care. Goodbye, everyone.